Greetings and welcome to Old Drunken Discography, where old friends and fans come together to BS, argue, occasionally agree, and discuss a musical artist. This is Sabbath Sunday, brought to you by Tim.
That's me. Praise Iomi.
Stick around, like and subscribe, and you can see our next Sunday a band picked by Bill.
Oh, I can't wait.
And after Bill picks whatever that is, I will pick something else. It might be a Sonic Sunday. Maybe we'll do some Sonic Youth. Who knows? I'm Jason. So yeah, hopefully you've been following along with the Playlist Sync channel. Go check out how we got to where we're at. We got some major disagreements here. Some people got Heaven and Hell at number 11. Some people got Heaven and Hell at 1 and 2. So, if you'd like to hear those discussions, make sure you check out the Playlist Sync. Also, make sure the first Monday of every month, we're going to stream live. And we're going to talk about Heaven and Hell versus Ozzy Osbourne's self-titled Blizzard of Oz. So, lots of good, great discussions there. You can join in, hit us up in chat.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't wait to see where we land with that.
I
know where I'm landing, but
I thought I knew where I was going to land, but I don't know anymore. I don't know anymore.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. It's going to be a fun conversation.
I mean, Bill, what's on Blizzard of Oz?
You start with, track 2 is Crazy Train. You start with,
oh shit.
I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah.
That's such a banger.
You
got Mr. Crowley.
Mr. Crowley starts side 2, right?
Good. Yeah, it's still on side 1, I think. Yeah.
Is it? It must be.
Or does it start side 2?
See, the track 5 or starts side 2. It's one of the other.
I'd have to grab the vinyl. I can't remember, but.
Versus Heaven and Hell. Versus Heaven and Hell. It's going to be a tough one. It's going to be a good episode. Stick around for that. Stick around for that. We'll be live, so nothing will be edited out. So check that out.
Get to see all the crap that we never get to show.
Today, though, we're talking Black Sabbath featuring Tony
Iommi.
So let me get this straight. He's the only original member on this record, but he still puts his name second place, featuring.
So, yes.
What would Black Sabbath be without featuring Tony Iommi?
So there's reasons. Obviously, after their third singer, Sabbath's kind of done. Geezer's gone. Bill's left again. Tony is all that's left. Dio's gone. Like, the whole band's gone. So Tony's the only one that's left. So he goes in with the idea of doing a solo album. At some point in that process, the record company gets involved and says, we won't release this unless you release it as a Black Sabbath album.
Okay.
So they compromised.
So it's not Black Sabbath. It's like Black Sabbath is an empty vessel, but it's featuring Tony Iommi.
Who's on the cover. Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah, very clearly this is designed to be a Tony Iommi solo album. But
it's considered a Black Sabbath record.
It does come out under the Black Sabbath name due to record company pressure. Which, from what I understand, Born Again was kind of the same deal. They were like, well, we are Black Sabbath, because you had Geezer and Bill there as well. But you get, you've already gone through Ozzy and Dio. You get Ian Gillan. Obviously, this is going to be a different thing. But no, the record company says, no, this is Black Sabbath.
All right, well, I'll just rip the Band-Aid off.
Sure.
I'll just rip it off.
Before you do, let me go into who is on this album. So Glenn Hughes is singing. Glenn Hughes actually replaced Ian Gillan in Deep Purple along with David Coverdale. So this album is intrinsically tied to Deep Purple, interestingly, even more than Born Again, where like Ian Gillan left Deep Purple and eventually joins Black Sabbath, right? So what does Deep Purple do? They replace him with David Coverdale and Glenn Hughes because Roger Glover also left Deep Purple. So they needed a bass player as well. Glenn Hughes plays bass and can sing. David Coverdale was the lead singer, but because Glenn Hughes could sing, they would give him tracks here and there during what is this Deep Purple Mach 4. So it's really interesting that we've already pilfered Ian Gillan for Born Again. So what's the next best thing? We'll get Ian Gillan's replacement and get Glenn Hughes. And then that's not the only band Tony Iommi's pilfering from. This is the time where he's engaged to Lita Ford of the Runaways, who's doing a very successful solo career in 1986. About to have her biggest hit with Ozzy singing, in fact. And so from Lita Ford's band, Tony grabs Eric Singer on drums, who is probably most well known over the last 35 years as being the drummer for Kiss. But he also played with Alice Cooper, Badlands. This is a period in Black Sabbath where the Badlands album is going to be very integral to what's going on. Yeah. And then on bass for this album, they have Dave Spitz, whose brother Dan Spitz is the lead guitarist in Anthrax at the time. And Jeff Nichols on keyboards. Jeff Nichols has been with Black Sabbath at this point on every album since Technical Ecstasy. And while never a official member of Black Sabbath, I think at this point we have to say that Jeff Nichols is in fact in Black Sabbath. He's co-writing a lot of the stuff with Tony. We'll get, before you rip the Band-Aid off, obviously the instrumental track on here is all keyboards, so we got to credit that to Jeff. It's an interesting lineup. It's an interesting point in their career. There's also a lot of drugs. I don't necessarily want to say that this is the peak of Tony's drug use, because I don't necessarily know. But I think this is the peak of Tony's drug use.
Okay, yeah. I mean, we've been saying that for every album.
We've been saying that for a while, and I think he's at his worst shape here. Glenn Hughes finishes the album, but only does the first 2 shows of the tour because he's so strung out he can't continue. So it's a safe bet that all of Glenn Hughes' stuff on here is very under the influence. And then, 86, Sabbath's been doing this for over 15 years. 86 is a big year in underground metal. And Black Sabbath is not necessarily, touching that stuff. They're kind of going more in the pop metal realm of the Bon Jovis and the Def Leppards at this point.
Yeah, we're going to talk about Def Leppard.
Well, so with all of that being said, rip that Band-Aid.
Here comes that Band-Aid. Hot take. In for the Kill. Best opening track since Never Say Die. After 2 Dio albums, 1 Purple album, This band has gone so far off the fucking rails. By
Yes,
this
they have.
by
Oh,
this
but they're
point,
fully on the rails, if you know what I mean.
I'm here for it.
Okay.
I love the channel paneling guitar solo. This is 80s horror movie fucking metal, and I'm kind of here for it. I liked In for the Kill. No Stranger Love, decent song, horrible track placement though. This one should have closed out the A side.
Okay.
I'm pretty
It
sure I've
was the
heard.
single.
I was gonna say I'm pretty sure I've heard that one before. Like that,
Yeah,
No
it was the
Strangers
single.
sounded. Um, it shouldn't have been track two though. Like that was kind of a. But it's a good song. Turn to Stone. That should have been track two. This one kind of fucking rips. It's like Dio Sabbath, but with a better vocalist. For me, like it doesn't have the super high pitchy bullshit like the vocals. They, like you're not singing like you got
Sure.
kicked in the nuts. It was
Sure.
okay. Sphinx. Well, what do you know? Some pointless keyboard instrumental song. Shocker at this
Shout out,
point.
shout out Jeff Nichols.
It does lead well into the title track. This one kind of sounds like modern 1986 Black Sabbath would sound like. It's got those pounding drums. It's a little sludgy. It's not much, but like just enough. Like it kind of sounds like what I would think Sabbath would have sounded like in 1986. Danger Zone. I was kind of hoping this was a Kenny Loggins cover song. That shit would have been wild. It's fine, but I take Kenny's 1986 Danger Zone over it. Heart Like a Wheel, kind of like the title track. It sounds like it would have what I would think Black Sabbath would sound like in 1986 if it had Ozzy singing. Like this would have been fucking Black Sabbath in 1986. It's pretty good. It's a little bluesy, but it's like heavy blues.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's like heavy blues. Um, Angry Heart. I like the palm mutes during the verses. I didn't mind it. It was kind of weird for Sabbath, but like I said in the beginning, I'm kind of here for it. In memory, pay attention, Mob Rules. This is how you close an album. Best closer in a very long time for me. That outro, damn, that was a good outro. That's all I'm gonna say about it. That's all I'm gonna say about it.
I think that leads pretty nicely into my notes for this one. Um, for me and for the kill, my notes, it was a different vocal take. Um, it's I figure out, for the better, it kind of works. Not I like the Dio as well as Ian Moore. Um,
Ian Gillan.
Ian Gillan, yep. And but he doesn't it's not bad on this one. I mean, Iommi is still just sounding great on guitar. Like, but
A lot of good guitar.
he sounded very relaxed on this album. Like other albums, it sounded like he was kind of like straining to play almost. Like, he was putting a lot of energy into it. This one, it seemed like he was more not mellowed out.
Well,
So, like,
again, there's a lot of rails that we're going off of.
yeah. Like, it was almost like it was more in control isn't the right word either. Like, it was more like it wasn't as crazy at times, which had its drawbacks, but also had its pros to it too. Because like it was a very still beautiful, great sounding. Um, I would agree with Jason that No Stranger to Love should have been like track 3 or 4, at least.
Yeah, it should have
Um,
closed out the B side or the A
but you
side.
know
It should have
what?
closed out the A side.
Excuse me.
But a Sabbath on the vocalist really works on this ballad. It's nothing crazy, but Iommi's solo fits exceptionally well, and I felt like that really brought everything together in that song. Turn to Stone, it's interesting having, the change in Sabbath, but Iommi's still just shredding a guitar. Great lyrics and everything else was, standard, just it existed. Sphinx, I said that this is a weird instrumental. It worked all right as a segue between songs. I feel it's kind of weird for a Sabbath instrumental to not have Tony Iommi present at all, especially given the
Shout out Jeff Nichols.
context,
Yeah.
like that this was supposed to almost be a Tony Iommi solo album.
In fact, we should say rest in peace, Jeff Nichols.
Which this is like one of the better instrumentals they've had in a while compared to like some of the keyboard bullshit going on the last few albums.
Well, that'd be Jeff Nichols too, but yeah, so it's interesting because Tony is credited with writing all the music, but we know that Jeff is involved, and that's just a legal thing. And so when you get a track that's entire keyboards, it's hard to believe that Tony wrote it, even though he played the piano on changes, and like he can play. But keep going. Keep going.
Yeah,
I don't want to get too
they
deep
have
into
better
my-
instrumentals.
Yeah, I would say. I mean, my notes, 7 star, honestly, for me, was kind of a snooze fest at times for a Sabbath album, for a Sabbath song. Iommi had solid guitar work, and the rest of the instruments were all great. The vocals let me down on that one, though. Danger Zone, Jason already hit it up. I was hoping there'd be a weird Kenny Loggins cover.
No, that's be so good. Oh, that's be so good.
Heart Like a Wheel. Great work by Omi again. Shocker there. Love the intro. I feel like this part of the album would have been better if it was just instruments playing, though. Like, if it was just because the instruments as a whole in this album I thought were spectacular.
That's every Sabbath record, though.
I know, but like that, we have switched instrumentals. We've switched a lot of moving parts around. We only have Iommi
all
though.
moving parts. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Last couple
but
records
I guess
didn't have Bill on it either, though.
well he came back for the one, right?
Mob Rules, yeah.
Yeah. No,
I guess, like-
Born Again.
Or Born
Mob
Again,
Rules,
yeah.
Vinny Apathy. Yeah. So now we're
Like-
currently on our third Black Sabbath drummer.
So that's I guess my point with that.
Second bass
even
player.
though they've switched out everyone but Tony at this point, it all still's great instrumentally.
Yeah.
Angry Heart, well, it was all right. Nothing to write home about. In Memory, again, I'm going to agree with you, Jason. One of the best closers, probably since the original 6 albums. I would almost put it as.
That outro.
It's a great outro. Maybe not as good as Heaven and Hells, but it was still a solid outro. Like there's parts of this I was
That's all down to
reminiscent.
taste.
It's reminiscent of the reason why we all love the original Black Sabbath albums, but at the same time it's not missing magic, but it's like at this point Black Sabbath was trying to sound like some of the 80s bands that were copying them now.
Mhm.
So they're starting to reciprocate some of it, which can lead a band to grow and develop a new sound, which I think they kind of did on this album. I'll be kind of for the worse for them.
I'll read a little bit of my final notes. It's very Def Leppard in parts. It's very Aerosmith in parts, but that's okay. It's like the good Def Leppard. It's the good Aerosmith. So There's also a lot of there's a lot of Sabbath on this record too. Like it's not just a Def Leppard wannabe record, but it is like there is some influence there. It is bleeding in a little bit.
Well, and I think that you bring up an interesting point there. And I kind of want to reiterate this for the whole catalog, not just what we've listened to, but what's coming up. Like the only member of Sabbath here is Tony Iommi, and yet you're saying there's a bunch of Sabbath here. So I really want to kind of emphasize how important Tony Iommi is to the
Oh,
sound of Sabbath.
100%. Oh,
Like
100%.
Without a
everybody's
doubt.
like, oh no, it's Ozzy or whatever. But no, like that sound that you love comes from those three fingers,
And it's on this record. It is on this record.
and it's
There's
on this
some,
record.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's on this record. Sure, you got like some Def Leppard creeping in here and there. You got like a little bit of
You got some
bluesy
basic bar
Aerosmith.
blues.
Yeah, you got
Yeah.
some bar blues on there, but you still have like that Sabbath heavy sound that
Hmm.
I was kind of missing to me on some of the previous records. Like it's here on this
Interesting.
one.
Okay. Okay. Well, no, I really take that as like, yeah, there's of course the argument of if no Ozzy, no Sabbath, but it's no Tony, no Sabbath, and Tony's
Yeah,
there every album, so they're all Sabbath.
yeah, I would say Tony is Sabbath
Yeah,
for sure.
and and he's the only one that's on all of them. So like even like with this, with as far as we've gotten away from that original sound, it is still Sabbath because Tony
Yeah,
is still there.
it's still there. It's still there. You still have that heavy fucking. He might do a lot of bullshit in between, but like he will hit you with that
But when he
Sabbath.
lays it down, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, heart like a wheel. He kind of hits you with that Sabbath.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, that solo in Heart Like a Wheel.
Yeah.
As plays as prime time with Tony Iommi, you know?
Well,
And you guys have covered pretty much my notes. Like, and I did pick this band, so I knew that I'd be the one to really be defending a lot of these albums. Like, In for the Kill, I think is fun. I like the chorus, I like the riff. No Stranger to Love has always bothered me with as goofy it is, like living on the streets. I'm no stranger to love. Like, what are you trying
yeah.
to say there? But with that being said, I do really like that song. Like, that's a decent song.
It's a good song.
And
It shouldn't be track two though. That's my only problem with it.
well, I
It
don't know where
shouldn't be
else you'd
track
put
two.
it.
At
I
the end of
do
the B
think
A
that
side.
I think side B kind of falls off here a little bit. It's not bad, but it's not good. There's a lot of just generic stuff going on here. Like Angry Heart, for example, is the epitome of 80s rock. But because Tony Iommi's involved and like they're doing some interesting stuff, I think it's a little better than your typical 80s rock song.
Yes,
Like it's better than a
exactly.
Rat or
Yes,
Cinderella or something.
exactly. Yes. 100%. It's better.
It's better, but it is that.
It is that, yeah.
And that's one of my biggest problems with this album is like at the low points of this album, it's just generic and it sounds like any other band. But
That
because Tony Iommi's involved, they're just doing it better.
that to me that's the last like 3 records we talked about though. Like they're just like
Well, you had Geezer involved too. Geezer always brings a special sauce. And
yeah,
then yeah,
but
2 out of the last 3 had Bill. Bill, even Bill at his worst is bringing a special sauce.
but this is the best vocalist they've had since Ozzy.
And I was going to go on record and say Glenn Hughes, worst Sabbath vocalist.
I disagree.
We
I
haven't
think
gotten to the Tony Martin stuff yet, so I don't know how you guys are going to feel about that. But
I
for
mean,
uh,
me,
so far, I would agree with you, Tim. For me, at least.
I
yeah,
don't.
it,
If you're talking Black Sabbath, okay, you're talking fucking Ozzy singing. Okay,
right.
let's get
And
past
maybe Dio.
Ozzy. No, Dio to me does not fit that Sabbath sound. The guy on this record fits better
Okay.
he fits that Sabbath sound better than that high pitched kick in the nuts shit that Dio does. And even the Deep Purple guy, he could have done better. I think he could have done better. But
Well, and I'll throw out that if you do like this album, Iommi and Hughes did an album in the 90s together called Fused. It's very 90s metal, where this is very 80s metal. That one's very 90s metal.
oh
Again, it's
Lord,
Tony Iommi, so it works. So shout out to that album. We're not going to talk about it on this discography, of course, but um, yeah, if like me, you're like, okay, I'm all in on the Tony Iommi, then yeah, definitely check that album out. Uh, the only other thing I'm really going to say about this album that you guys haven't knocked on is in Danger Zone, that riff after the solo, oh, might be the highlight of the album for me. The second half of Danger Zone just rips. Everything else though, it's like I'm on the fence because Iommi saves every track here, but a lot of these tracks are just kind of there.
after I heard this, I was like, I'm gonna have a hot take. I'm gonna have a hot
No,
take.
and that's good. I love the hot takes on these albums that are divisive. So I'm all for it because it shows. And, not to give anything away, but we're a couple albums away from another hated album that I actually really like. So um, it just shows that there is quality and value in these albums, even if universally they're kind of panned.
All right. Where are you putting it, Tim?
I mean, can I
Oh,
put
whoa,
it
whoa, whoa, whoa!
better
Wait,
than
wait a
an
minute, wait a
Ozzy
minute.
album?
Wait. It's Bill's turn to guess.
Oh,
He's got
okay.
the dot.
Well, I mean, I don't think Tim can put it above an Ozzy
I did.
album. Hey,
It's tough, right?
so yeah, so I think Tim's gonna have it number 12.
You're going to be correct.
Jason over here really doesn't like Dio. So I'm gonna guess he has it at 10.
Well, you're right about me not liking Dio.
Or are you gonna
But he
put it
likes
above
this even
one
more than
again?
Ian Gillan.
But he's not gonna put it above Ozzy.
Unlike Tim, I'm gonna break the trend.
You're
Do
putting
it.
it above.
I love it. Love it.
I'm about to put it above Never Say Die. I like this record. I embrace this album because by this point, Black Sabbath is a joke. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah, they
like
are.
they're just like singer after singer after singer changing.
Hmm. And it's
80s,
super
like
cheesy.
it's
Yeah.
super cheesy. Like at least In for the Kill wasn't fucking trashed. You
Right.
know,
And No Stranger to Love, even like as like a ballady single. It's pretty good.
best opening track and closing track. I'm about to put it above Never Say Die. That's
I'm all for that.
that's
That's
as
great.
far
I
as it's
love it.
going though. That's as far as it's going.
No, and before Bill places his, like, that is totally legitimate because again, like going into these 20 albums, Like I knew that I was like here for all of them, but I also knew that I had bottoms, like
Yeah, this isn't like an all green discography here where we'll get to the color code at the end.
Well, I'm
right.
gonna have this guy is gonna be above Born Again.
Hashtag Bill hates Purple Sabbath.
Bill should check it out some more. That's a grower.
That's yeah.
Zero the Hero. That song's
You
so
know,
good.
I'm also gonna put this one above Mob Rules, but
But
it's not going above Tactical Ecstasy,
it's
no.
not piss. It's not better than pissing on a building.
No.
Those robots are having sex, sir.
We'll get to that artwork.
Yes, we will.
Hashtag Born Again #1. Fuck to hate us.
Right, right.
All right, we have like divided so fucking far. Where are we at in our #1s here? Where are we at in our tops? Paranoid, Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath, Heaven and Hell, Volume
Which are clearly all
4.
just personal favorites.
It looks like
Yeah.
Paranoid is the highest ranked.
I
Second
mean, it
would
might be even
be
there with Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath.
yep,
Yeah.
Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath is next. Heaven and Hell got tanked.
Volume 4, Tim and I tanked.
Yeah, y'all are fucking wrong for that.
Sabotage and Master of Reality are tied.
Yeah, that's a fair point. That's a fair point.
I mean,
What?
those first six are so tough.
Stick around. Next Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath. We're talking Eternal Idol.
Eternal Idol, which
Who's-
comes out on Record Store Day. Look for your copy.
Who is the fucking singer on this one, Tim?
This would be the first album with Tony Martin. The only person returning other than Jeff Nichols would be Eric Singer.
Okay.
Wait, no Tony Iommi?
No, of course, Tony Iommi. That's
Okay,
a
okay,
given.
okay.
He's on every album. Yeah.
We just went through that.
I know we were through that, but it's like only person returning. It's like, wait, that was a Tony. Hold on.
So no
And
Geezer, no Bill
interestingly enough,
Ward, no
we're actually going to
Ozzy.
go through two different singers between Seven Star and Eternal Idol. So,
In 1 year?
yeah.
Well,
Shout out Ray Gillen. Yeah, we'll get there. We'll talk about that.
all
Yeah,
right. Well,
Tony Martin's on this one. I'm going to have a hot take here.
yeah, we'll get to that. We'll get to that.
Get to that artwork.
Get to that artwork.
Both those people had to be hospitalized.
That makes it even more interesting. Could we have a fucking Ivy in our midst? Stick around for Is It Art? Give us a like, give us a subscribe. Make sure you check us out. We'll be streaming the first Monday of every month. So come
Join us for those.
Yeah, come hang out with us in the chat. Be our chat. What else?
Praise Iommi.
Praise Iommi. Be safe. And what, Bill?
Oh, can I throw out one thing before we close this out?
Go ahead.
I
have
did
the
forget
floor.
to mention. I did forget to mention that Seven Star went up against The Ultimate Sin, which was Ozzy's 1986 release. And The Ultimate Sin is possibly the poppiest Ozzy album there was.
That one I don't even
It's-
remember.
It's a great album. It's got some good stuff. However, I think it's interesting that Ozzy was going more pop than even Sabbath at their poppiest, or trying to be.
Well,
Did
yeah.
Dio have an 86 album?
Yeah, I think he was on Sacred Heart at this time.
Okay.
But of course, you've also got, Master of Puppets and Rain of Blood and
Well, yeah, you've got
Few
all
Cells.
those.
Like,
Yeah.
metal is at a different place for sure.
Yeah. Huh.
Anyway, be safe and fucking listen to Sabbath. And then you go a little woo, and then a little whoop, 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 and then it's all, and then you're ready to go again.